Well, yes, you're beautiful. You're smart. You're worthy. People want to be around you, but you don't want them. You crave those that push you away, and deep inside, you feel unworthy of love, and your happiness is fragile. You want love that seems not to exist. You chase it, you crave it, you look for it in people's eyes. You're searching for love that's not there. You dissect every text message, every silence, every sigh, hoping one of them will finally whisper, "You're safe now." You are hypersensitive to every word that comes your way. You read tone before meaning. You measure pauses like threats. You build stories out of moments that never existed. Because your body remembers danger more easily than comfort. You look for love. You beg for it. You expect it. You want it. And then people fail you. Because when you love like that, you hold on too tight. You become too clingy, too controlling, too dependent. You become what the world calls a burden. And yes, the man cheats. The friends drift away. The mirror grows colder. And you start to believe that maybe real love doesn't exist at all. That maybe you were built for longing, not belonging, until one day, somewhere around 40, maybe 43, maybe 47, you wake up and think, whatever then, I will love myself better. Welcome to the mind I live in, dark real life psychology. I am Katara Lilith. Listen up, because today we will uncover the deepest, darkest secrets, faraway hidden fears. And in the next 30 minutes, you will heal your wounded soul once and for all. How to start loving yourself. You are ready, you suffered enough, and you actually mean it. No matter how many books you read, or meditations you record, or sunsets you stare into, the hidden truth is this: you never learned what love feels like in the first place, because you never had the first bond, the attachment bond, the invisible thread between a child and the one who should have been her safe place. When you were little, you didn't have the emotional or neurological capacity to build that connection yourself. You were pure circuitry, open wires and waiting receptors, needing someone to map love into your nervous system. It was supposed to be your parents' job, their sacred responsibility, to set the tone through touch, through attention, through empathy, through consistency. That's how a child learns what love feels like. Through rhythm, not words. Through the smell of skin, the tone of voice, the reliability of a heartbeat that always returns. But if that didn't happen, you didn't just lose affection, you lost your emotional blueprint. Your nervous system learned chaos instead of calm, hypervigilance instead of peace, the ache of absence instead of the warmth of belonging. Now, decades later, you call that ache love. You call that adrenaline passion. And you confuse emotional survival for connection because your brain, that beautiful, loyal brain, built its wiring around neglect. It learned that love means guessing, proving, performing. That safety means control. That silence means danger. So you built yourself into the perfect proof of worthiness. You became an overachiever. You worked harder, spoke louder, looked prettier, earned more. You learned to glow so brightly that maybe, just maybe, someone would finally notice and say, "You matter." Love built on performance always collapses because the moment you stop performing, you disappear in people's eyes, and your body feels it like death. You fall into depression, you gain weight, you lose sleep, develop migraines, tremors, or even worse. So you keep performing a good girl role, and no one knows that you feel stuck. You've wasted so much energy proving you were worthy, and people just walk through your soul with their dirty boots. Well, f them. But before you close the door completely, you should know something. It wasn't always like this. There were generations before you that knew how to love instinctively. There was a time, long before therapy words and trauma language, when people loved because they had nothing else left. Some did truly love their children, and those children you envy, they don't need to be here today. They don't even know that you may have grown up without love. My father is like that. You may know somebody too, someone who wanted children to fill their homes with laughter and hope and tiny feet. They wanted to care, to nurture, to touch, to whisper kind words, because they knew how fragile life was and how precious softness felt against all that pain. Those who survived the worst often became the best at love. They cherished what could be taken. They knew tenderness was the only rebellion worth living for. But then came another generation. Yours, maybe, or your parents. A generation that forgot tenderness because survival became more psychological than physical, and survival doesn't make room for feelings. Your mother may have been one of them, a woman born into confusion, into scarcity, into rules written by people who never met her heart. Maybe she didn't even want a child. Maybe she was too young, too tired, too unloved herself. Maybe she thought having you would save her marriage, or make her mother proud, or give her life a purpose she couldn't find anywhere else. And when you arrived, she realized that motherhood isn't a fairy tale, it's a mirror. And in that mirror, she saw everything she'd never healed. So instead of love, she gave you fear. Instead of tenderness, distance. Instead of safety, criticism. Not because she hated you, but because she didn't know how to stay present with the kind of love she never received herself. You were born into her storm, her depression, her confusion, her silent resentment for a life that never felt like hers, and so the bond never formed. She fed you, clothed you, maybe even smiled in pictures, but inside, you always knew she was somewhere else, somewhere unreachable. Her body was near, but her soul never came to meet you. Her hug was distant. Her interest in you always felt superficial, her anger burning, her eyes empty. And that's the first heartbreak of your life. The one no one talks about. The one that shaped your every relationship after. Because when a mother's eyes never light up for you, you learn to become the light yourself. You start catering, dancing, overachieving, caretaking. You say, "See me. Please, see me." She can't. Her nervous system is locked in survival mode, fight, flight, freeze, not nurture. And your little heart learns that love equals effort. You grew up thinking your feelings were too much. Your needs are inconvenient. Your dreams are embarrassing. So you build walls, learned control, crafted perfection. You became the good one, the strong one, the independent one. But deep down, you were still that little girl, waiting for someone to notice how tired you were from being perfect. Neuroscience calls this attachment trauma, when the child's developing brain wires around emotional neglect. Your amygdala, The alarm center became overactive. Your prefrontal cortex, the reasoning, calming part, struggled to regulate emotions. Your nervous system never learned what safe felt like, so it mistook intensity for intimacy. It confused anxiety with excitement, conflict with connection. That's why you're drawn to chaos. Because chaos feels like home. That's why stable people bore you. Because stability feels foreign. That's why love feels impossible. Because your body doesn't recognize peace as love. But it's not your fault. You were programmed that way. Literally, neurologically, emotionally, your brain was built under the architecture of absence. Your attachment circuits developed without consistent nurture. So now, every relationship feels like decoding an alien language. And still, you tried. You tried to be the kind of woman who heals her bloodline by being better, kinder, softer. You tried to mother your own mother. Love her enough to change her. You waited for the day she'd say, "I'm proud of you. I love you." You waited until you realized that day might never come. And then something in you broke. But maybe what broke was just the illusion that she'd ever be the mother you needed. Because some women should have never been mothers, and their mothers should have never been either. But here's what's sacred. You are the one who stops the cycle. You are the evolutionary correction. You are the woman who turns absence into awareness, chaos into consciousness, pain into power. And yes, you're still going to cry sometimes. You're still going to ache when you see mothers and daughters laughing together in grocery stores. You'll still wonder what it feels like to be loved without earning it. But you'll also start to see that maybe you don't need it anymore because you can give it to yourself. You can reparent your own heart through softness, through patience, through consistency, the very things you were denied. You can hold your own face in your hands and whisper, "I see you. I love you. I'm not leaving you anymore." And that's the beginning of real love. But let's follow your full journey, like the book Journey Back to Myself, so it's done once and for all, and you never have to go back to it, to your past, to everything that hurt you and doesn't exist anymore except deeply seated in your heart, your soul, and your subconscious mind. Today, you will get rid of it. You will let it go. You grew up, and somewhere along the way, you think you've escaped her. You leave home, you move to another city, you fall in love, you start again. But the old story follows you like a shadow. It hides in the people you choose. It hides in the way your chest tightens when someone doesn't text back. It hides in your fear of being too much and your terror of being not enough. You want to be loved so badly that you forget to ask whether the person in front of you is capable of love at all. You pour your soul out and call it intimacy. You break your own boundaries and call it devotion. You stay in places where your heart keeps bleeding and call it loyalty. Because deep down, you believe that if you can make this person love you, you can rewrite what your mother couldn't give you. You can finally win the game that started before you could speak. That's why you fall for emotionally unavailable people. Why you chase those who ignore you. Why you feel alive only when love hurts a little. Your nervous system confuses peace with boredom because peace doesn't spike your adrenaline, and your body has been addicted to adrenaline since you were 3 years old. So you build relationships on anxiety. You crave what you know. Unpredictability, distance, hot, cold, yes, no, come here, go away. It's not that you like it, it's that you recognize it. It feels familiar, and familiar feels safe, even when it's destroying you. And when they finally leave, because eventually they always do, you don't just lose them. You lose the fantasy that they could have fixed what your parents broke. And that grief, that's the oldest grief in your body, the one that never found words, the one that aches every time someone walks away. But you never really stop trying, do you? You tell yourself the next one will be different. You learn the 5 love languages, the attachment styles, the therapy scripts. You say, I'm healing. You go to therapy. You doubt your worth and trust that others are better than you. And part of you is still trying to earn love through perfection, through patience, through self-sacrifice. You love with your whole being, but you also bleed with your whole being. And you call that passion. Sometimes you even start believing that maybe love just isn't meant for you, that you're too damaged, too complicated, too intense, that maybe you were meant to be the teacher, the healer, the strong one, not the one who gets held. That's another lie, another layer of armor built over the original wound. You were always meant to be held. You were always meant to be soft. You were always meant to exhale in someone's arms without fear of vanishing. You just never learned how to stay when it's safe, because safety feels like silence, and silence used to mean danger. So even when someone loves you gently, your body trembles. It waits for the slap that never comes, the rejection that feels inevitable. That's not weakness. That's neurology. Your vagus nerve remembers what your mother's face taught you love is unstable, unpredictable. Your cortisol levels spike when someone cares too much. Your oxytocin receptors don't know how to receive. You've spent decades rewiring a brain that was built in chaos, and you wonder why it's exhausting. Of course it's exhausting, because you've been doing the job of 2 people, the child who needed love and the parent who never gave it. Sometimes you look back and try to understand your parents. You think, maybe they didn't know better? Maybe they were doing their best? And that's partly true. They were born in a different time. A time when survival meant silence, when emotions were weaknesses, when affection was rationed like sugar in wartime. People didn't talk about feelings. They drank them, worked them, prayed them away. Your mother may have been raised by a woman who'd seen bombs, hunger, loss, who held love in clenched fists because open hands got burned. Your father might have grown up under pressure, told that men don't cry, don't talk, don't feel. They didn't know they were passing down ghosts. They didn't know that by avoiding pain, they were creating it in you. They thought discipline meant love. They thought control meant safety. They thought silence meant peace. They were wrong, but they didn't know how to be right either. They carried their own wounds unhealed, unnamed, and then handed them to you wrapped in family values and religion and fear. Generations of misunderstanding. Generations of people who survived but never truly lived. And you, the sensitive one, the aware one, the feeler, you were born into that storm to finally end it. It's not fair, but it's sacred. You are the bridge between what was and what will be. You are the first in your bloodline to say, "This ends with me." The first to turn around and face the darkness instead of running from it. The first to stop pretending that pain is normal But let's be honest, healing doesn't look graceful. It's messy. It's nights of crying without knowing why. It's forgiving people who never asked. It's missing the mother you never had while sitting next to the woman who gave you birth. It's wanting love and pushing it away at the same time. Healing is not linear, it's circular. You revisit the same wound from deeper and deeper places until it finally stops bleeding. And still, even after years of therapy, meditation, self-work, you might wake up one day and feel that emptiness again, that ache behind your ribs, that quiet question, why wasn't I enough for her? You were. You always were. She just didn't have the capacity to see it. Because love isn't about worthiness, it's about availability. And she wasn't emotionally available, not for you, not even for herself. Once you really understand that not just in your head, but in your body, you start to release the resentment, not because she deserves forgiveness, but because you deserve freedom. Resentment keeps you tied to the same emotional frequency as the pain. Freedom comes when you realize her inability to love had nothing to do with you. And then something shifts. You stop trying to fix your childhood through other people. You stop chasing closure in people who benefit from your confusion. You stop explaining your heart to those committed to misunderstanding it. You start building something new, quietly, tenderly, stubbornly, a home inside yourself. You start feeding the child inside you with the words you needed to hear. You're safe now. You can rest. I'm proud of you. And slowly, your body starts to believe it. The adrenaline settles. The breath deepens. The silence stops being scary. That's when you realize you don't need to trust everyone. You don't need to open your heart to the whole world. You just need to stop betraying yourself in the name of love. Because love built on self-betrayal is just another form of abandonment. When you stop doing that, something beautiful happens. You stop caring so much about who stays and who leaves. You stop analyzing every tone and gesture. You stop waiting for validation that never comes. You become solid, grounded, calm. And from that calm, love finally finds you not because you begged for it, but because you vibrate at its frequency. When you stop chasing, you start attracting. When you stop performing, you start being. When you stop proving, you start belonging. And that belonging, that's what you were searching for all along. And one morning, you just stop waiting. Not in a bitter way, not even angry anymore. Just quiet. Something in you exhales for the first time. You realize you don't owe the past another explanation. You don't have to keep auditioning for the love you should have received by default. You stop defending your softness. You stop apologizing for your scars. You start existing for yourself. You walk differently now. Your spine straightens not from pride, but from relief. You breathe slower. You laugh at things that used to break you. And when people leave, you whisper, "Thank you for showing me another corner of myself I needed to heal." It's not that life suddenly becomes easy. It's that you stop resisting what is. You stop looking backward asking, "Why didn't she love me?" And instead you start looking inward asking, "How can I love me better?" You learn that healing isn't erasing the wound. It's learning to live with it open, without infection, without shame. You learn that pain doesn't go away when you ignore it. It softens when you hold it gently. You stop needing to prove anything. You no longer chase the high of being chosen because you finally realize you were never unchosen. You simply belong to yourself all along. Your nervous system begins to trust calm. At first, it feels boring, almost suspicious, but then it feels sacred. Your body starts to memorize safety. Your breath starts writing new code into your cells. I'm allowed to feel peace. I'm allowed to be loved without earning it. And little by little, you become the parent you always needed. You talk to yourself softly. You cook for yourself the way you wish someone once did. You listen to your own tears without rushing to fix them. You stop asking for permission to rest. You stop explaining why you need space. You stop calling people who drain you just to fill silence. You start filling your home with quiet things, candles, light, music that doesn't hurt. You start noticing the sound of birds, the way wind moves through leaves, the way your body feels when it isn't on guard. You start trusting life again. Not people, life, because people will always be unpredictable. But life itself, the rhythm of breath, the tide of sunrise and sunset that's stable, that's love in its purest form. You realize that love isn't found in another person. It's found in your presence, the way you stay with yourself when everything else falls apart. You look back at your mother, and for the first time, you don't see a villain. You see a scared child in an adult body, repeating what she was taught. You see her exhaustion, her confusion, her quiet desperation to be enough, and you whisper, I get it now. Understanding doesn't excuse her, but it releases you. Because empathy is the final form of freedom. You don't need to rebuild a relationship that never existed. You can simply release it with gratitude for the lessons and peace for the distance. Society might still whisper, how can you not talk to your mother? And you'll smile, because society wasn't there. Society didn't live 40 years of emotional roller coasters, gaslighting, betrayal, the constant hunger for validation that never came. Society doesn't get to decide what healing looks like. Healing sometimes looks like letting go completely. Sometimes it means choosing silence over reconciliation. Sometimes it means closing the door and lighting a candle for yourself. And that's okay, because you're not here to fix the past. You're here to create a future that feels safe in your own skin. You're here to love differently, to raise your children with gentleness instead of guilt, to love your partner without losing yourself, to hold space for others without abandoning your own needs. You're here to show that softness isn't weakness, it's evolution. So when people try to pull you back into chaos, you don't fight anymore. You just don't go. When manipulation knocks, you don't argue. You simply don't open the door. When someone confuses your empathy for availability, you choose boundaries over explanations. Because peace doesn't need defending, it just needs protecting. And then something magical happens. Oh, believe me, I've been there. You start to attract people who speak the same emotional language, people who don't flinch at vulnerability, people who see your silence as presence, not punishment, people who meet your honesty with gratitude, not fear. You realize that the love you were searching for, the deep, steady, quiet kind, exists, but only once you stop begging for it from those who can't give it. Because love isn't a rescue mission, it's a resonance. You vibrate differently now, and what matches your frequency comes naturally. You no longer chase, you no longer prove, you simply exist. and that existence becomes magnetic. You laugh more, you forgive faster, you sleep deeper, you wake up without dread, and sometimes, when the night is quiet, you still feel that old ache, that whisper of the little girl who wanted to be held, and you hold her. You tell her, "I'm here. You did it. We survived." You realize that survival was never the goal living is. And now, finally, you're living. You dance again. You write again. You look in the mirror and don't search for flaws. You search for light. You find it. It's there. It was always there. And you think back on all those people who walked through your soul with their dirty boots, the lovers who couldn't stay, the friends who couldn't see you, the family who couldn't love you. And you smile not with bitterness, but with clarity and say, fuck them. Not from anger, but from release, because you no longer need their approval to exist. You've outgrown the hunger. You've outgrown the need. You've outgrown the story. You're free, and freedom, it's quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't post pictures. It just breathes. You sit by a window, sunlight on your face, coffee in your hand, and you realize this is it. This is what love feels like when it's finally yours. No performance, no chase, no ache, just peace. You made it. And the world, the same world that once felt like a battlefield, now feels like a home. Because you turned pain into purpose. You turned chaos into clarity. You turned absence into art. You are the bond that never formed, finally forming itself. So let them go, all of them. The ones who hurt you, the ones who couldn't love you, the ones who never even tried. Let them go. Because the moment you release them, the universe rushes in to fill the space with light. You are love now. You are what you were searching for. And that is everything. So take a deep breath, smile softly, and move on. Now imagine yourself as a glass, half full of water, clear, beautiful, alive. But this glass has holes. Some large, some are almost invisible. Each hole represents a person who has taken a piece of your energy, every thought, every memory, every moment you gave away, a little part of yourself, to someone you loved, to someone who hurt you, to someone who never even noticed. And now, the water, your life force, drips slowly out of those holes, drop by drop, until you feel empty, tired, depleted. But tonight, we seal those holes. You take your power back. You whisper in your mind, I'm taking back what's mine. I cleanse it. I purify it. I assimilate it. And I give away everything that I don't need. See the water returning to you, flowing backward through time, from every person who ever drained you. It's glowing now, golden, pure, clean. It fills the glass until it overflows with light. There are no holes anymore. The surface is smooth, whole, calm. Your energy is yours again. Your heart is centered. Your spirit is grounded. Your mind is quiet. Now, let that fullness spread through your whole body, through your fingertips, through your toes, through the top of your head. You are radiant, balanced, alive. You have healed that abandonment. That old attachment wound. You no longer need to give your energy to people who don't deserve it. You no longer bleed for those who never even asked how you feel. You are full. You are whole. You are home. Take one last deep breath in, hold it for a moment, and exhale everything that isn't you. That's it for today, my dear. You did beautifully. Your energy is back where it belongs, and the world will feel softer now. I'll see you next week. And if you visit me at lek.space, ELIKAY.space, you'll find free gifts waiting, small pieces of light for those who walk this journey with me. If you'd like me to untangle some of your own psychological stories and turn them into a full-blown 30-minute episode, share this one with someone who needs it. Follow me on TikTok or Instagram. Send me a message. Tell me your story. I'll be happy to help you resolve it. I love you all. See you next week.